G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to MagzTV, and welcome to, well, it's a rather lengthy clips section of a live stream that I did earlier on today. This is the 15th of February 2020, playing Tank Mechanic Simulator. Now this is a game that I have received early access code for, press code for, to have a view of the game. The game itself is actually not coming out until the 20th of this month, so 5 days from the time of recording of this footage. Now, I'm going to be blunt up front, I'm less than impressed, but you'll see why in the course of this clip. So, at the point we're taking over, I've just managed to locate the tank in the ground. I'm in the process of uncovering it, and then I'm going to extract it. I'm probably going to do a little bit of editing in here just because it was a bit drawn out. I couldn't get one of the mechanics to function, although that wasn't a problem of the game, that was a problem of me. But then we're going to get into the workshop, and you're going to, well, you'll see. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoy. Alright, so apparently we've hit the spot for the tank, but we can't actually see it yet. Aha! There it is. What have we got here? I'm actually not sure what this is straight away. I think this is an armoured car. Possibly. You know, half track. If it is, this is the first one that I've seen in game. I knew there was one in here. Yeah, I reckon that's an armoured car. Alright, so with that done, we've got to go and get the metal detector too, otherwise the game actually complains about the metal detector being there. Now, with that much of it unburied, we should... Off-road vehicle. Alright, the Jeep's too close, so we've got to move the Jeep before they'll get the extraction team in to actually pull it out. Now this should be interesting. This is the first time I've ever seen one of these in game. That should be enough, I think. Terrain is not fit for excavation. Why? Now it's suddenly fit for excavation. All the extraction gear here. Now, where is it? I need to get those lights on too before we go anything. Yeah, the ambient sound in here is ridiculously loud, I agree. Let's pull the effects back a little bit. I know the lights will turn on automatically if it gets dark, but... Alright. Yep. Now basically the whole thing's got to be blasted clean and all the mud's got to be removed for it before you can actually get it up on the truck. Wish... Let's drop that one down over here. Got... I'm going to switch the lights on now. I don't think I can. But it'd be really convenient if I actually could, because I'm not going to be able to see anything until the sun actually goes down now. Including where I dropped the pressure washer. There it is. Ah! Shit, shit, shit. Don't drop it. Oops. Yeah, we'll get a better look of it in just a second, guys. As we're cleaning it up and the sun is actually setting, the lights will automatically turn on and then that thing will actually be lit up nice and bright. For the moment, it's going to be really dark. It's one of the problems that I actually have with this. The twilight area is really difficult to work with. Order tank cleaning for 500, so I can just bypass it if I have to. Back to workshop storage. Tank on the trailer. That's what it was. I was not using the context right. Alright, that should be it then. Back to the workshop. Tank state is only 11%. Extracted, money spent 1,000. Loading level. That's taken a while. There it goes. The other thing I've noticed with this is the loading times are fairly long to go between mission segments. But yeah, the last time I did a tank recovery like that, I must have just used the context correctly without thinking about it at the time. Anyways, there she is. Now we've got to fix her. And there's not a lot left here. She's only at 13%. And she's missing parts because we're only at 89% total. We take the toolboxes off if we want to, but that's not exactly what I've got in mind here. Just want to open her up for the moment. Evacuation hatches at the back. What have we got underneath? Suspensions, road wheels... Sprocket, everything's missing on that side. Why is the rubber rusted? That's kind of a thing with all of the Mechanic Simulator games. It's only got one texture for basically fucked, and that's what it uses on everything, regardless of what it's made of. So you'll get wood that's rusted. You'll get the that's the funniest one. The mosquito in Plane Mechanic Simulator. Mosquito covered in rust. It's made of wood. The entire aircraft is made of wood. The only metal in it is a couple of the struts, the cables for the flight control surfaces, and the engines. But the plane gets rusty. That's just, yeah. Alright. Side mudguard needs the tools removed first. Rear brake light needs to be removed. The tools up here on the front need to be removed. Now, the one thing I have seen with this over, say, Car Mechanic Simulator is why the basic context of the game for the parts removal is pretty much the same. There tends to be less components that are held together with screws and bolts that you've got to handle individually. In Car Mechanic Simulator, basically every component has a screw or a bolt or something that is holding it in place, so you've got to pull each and every part apart piece by piece. That seems less of a thing here. There are parts that do, but you can see I can pull the entire sprocket off without actually having to remove any screws. That would have 4 screws in it or 6 screws in it in Car Mechanic Simulator. So, in some ways, they seem to have stripped away some of the complexity of this side of thing. I'm not 100% sure whether or not I like it more or not. Now, what would be the best way? That one. So you probably have to go up with the front, and you'll have to go back. Right, now, there's probably actual tank mechanics in the military that are going to watch this game and go, I only wish it was this easy. Suspension. Pull the idler wheel off. This one more than the others. By now in one of the tanks, in the KV-1 and in the T-34, which is the other one that I've worked on and pulled apart, I haven't actually run into a Tiger or anything German. This is first German that I've run into. Or at least in this kind of condition. I have had Panzers come in that I've had to do minor works on before. But in most of those, by now I would have encountered screws or something. This has nothing. As I said, I haven't encountered the half-tracking game before, and there's nothing here. There's no screws, it's just piece-by-piece removal. Tire is obvious. Yeah, even the rim. That should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It should have been 8 screws. That just straight removes. I don't like that. Could be a newer thing that haven't had the screws in. That is fair, but this is 5 days out of release. This is supposed to be the press build for what the final release will actually look like. And it's not going into early access, as I understand it. It's going into actual release. So I would have expected things like the ability to actually unscrew things on all components would have been added by now. I don't think this one actually has it at all. You know, it could be wrong. It could be something that is just not in this build, but you know, this is the build that I would have expected this in. There's nothing. There's nothing on any of this. That can't be removed yet. I've half disassembled everything down to the bottom of the engine without actually... Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed here. Like, I liked Airplane Mechanics Simulator. The biggest problem was with Aircraft Mechanics Simulator was the context of the game. Because they were trying to base it in the 40s during the war, and you were supposed to be an RAF technician, they actually wrote themselves into a corner in terms of game design. Because, well, any RAF base is only going to work on a certain number of aircraft. And even if you go through, oh, it's a mixed base and you can get American aircraft on there as well. Okay, pretty cool. We can have American aircraft in there. But you're never going to have any of the opposing forces aircraft. You're never going to have any Axis aircraft showing up within that context. It's just never going to happen. It's not going to make any sense. I did say back when I reviewed Aircraft Mechanics Simulator, the mechanic side of things was perfectly fine and it was even interesting. But it would have been better if they did something like an aircraft museum. That way you could have Japanese aircraft, German aircraft, you could have early jets, you could have anything up to potentially Korean War, you could have your 4-engine bombers, you could have your single-engine fighters, and you could have all the vehicles you wanted. It would be far more flexible. That seems to be what they've done here. But in the process of going for the museum idea so that they can have all of the tank options that they actually want, they've taken away a big chunk of the actual mechanic gameplay to begin with. Or at least it's not in this build at all. This is just press and holding right click. There's no thinking at all on how I'm going to disassemble this. Made a different mode for Axis forces, yeah, but then you'd only be able to play one or the other. You'd only be able to work on German or Axis aircraft, or you'd only be able to work on Allied aircraft. Where a museum setup, you could be, when you expand out the workshops, because the workshops in all of these, including this one, can be expanded. You could have a Zero parked next to a Hawker Hunter that's parked next to a but maybe have a large bay in the back of the hangar section that's got a B-17 in it that you're working on. And you have multiple aircraft all sitting in the hangar at once. And it also allows you to collect the aircraft, because that's one thing you can't do in Plane Mechanics Simulator, because you're supposed to be just a mechanic. In this, if you find something that you really like, say I restore this to 100% and I really like the way it finishes up, I can keep the half-track. I can put it in the museum and I can keep it for myself. It's the same thing in Car Mechanics Simulator. If you find a car and you restore it and you decide you like it, you can actually choose to keep it and you can have your own personal collection of cars. It's the collection aspect is part of the gameplay. Aircraft Mechanics Simulator, that was never really an option, because as a mechanic you don't get to keep the planes. That's just the way it is. They've got the right idea here, but it's not good to get to the right idea by neutering the actual gameplay mechanics, and that is appearing what they've done. This half-track is showing it more than anything else. I mean, at least I ran into some screws and some fiddly bits with the tanks, but the half-track here, there's nothing. I mean, I assume I can pull the engine out. Right, so there's the engine. Is there at least some screws in here somewhere? That looks like one. There is. There we go, our first bolt. We had to get down to the engine and start disassembling the engine to find it. That's one. On the entire half-track so far, there has been one screw that we've had to deal with. It's relaxing enough to play. And when the vehicles are finished up, they do look nice and shiny. But you would think, like, this is basically the genre that this company works in. They've already got Car Mechanics Simulator, which is basically the blueprint for this entire game. What else? I mean, you tell me, guys. Am I going too far into this here? Is this really a major issue, or... The engine block doesn't have pistons. The engine block does not have pistons. It is just a block. There's no pistons, there's no crankshaft, there's no conrods, there's nothing in it. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of shit. I am more than disappointed at this point. Needs more cowbell and piston, says Zeraxis. You're not wrong. But that's it. There's one screw in the entire vehicle. The engine isn't even modelled. I mean, look at this. I'm glad I found this thing now. I'm not even having to work around the vehicle. I can just sit back here and I can just click and make every compartment or every component disappear one at a time. Fuel hose can't go, fuel tank can't go. There'll be something else I've got to right click on first before they can come off. I don't think I've got Car Mechanic Simulator 2018 installed at the moment, to be perfectly honest. Otherwise, I'd jump over to that just to show you the comparison on what you can do over there, because that's really good. Car Mechanic Simulator is actually kind of fantastic. I really like it. I just haven't had time to play it. I needed to free up some space. But it's a brilliant piece of work. But this... I've got to pull the fuel cap off before I can remove the fuel hose, to remove the cap, to remove the fuel tank, and I can do the whole lot standing outside of the tank. There we go, it's stripped down. There was one screw in the entire half track. Oh wait, no, sorry. Canisters. Can I pull that off? Nope, but I can pick them up. I can just pick them up. Was there anything I missed? I can take that. The back shelf can come out. And I think that is the entire thing disassembled. One screw in the entire fucking half track. That's it. And theoretically, if I knew that this is how this thing was assembled before I started disassembling it, I could have set the third-person camera to an angle that allowed me to see the entire thing, and I could have stripped down the entire half track from a 45-degree angle without ever having to move the camera or do anything but press the right mouse button. Yeah, and the track pins. Sorry, yep, and the track pins. That's Tank Mechanic Simulator. The mechanic simulator that doesn't actually have you do any mechanics, where the engine blocks are just solid blocks. This is just lazy. Actually, I'm going to just quickly check. It should be still showing game. Hopefully it's not showing anything else up here at the moment. Do I have Car Mechanic Simulator installed at the moment? I don't think I actually do. But I'm going to double check. Unfortunately, no, I don't have Car Mechanic Simulator. Don't have Plane Mechanic Simulator either. I was just going to jump over to one of those just to put up the comparisons so you can actually see how it does it. I mean, there's a reason why it's got 1,000,000,001 license expansions at this point. It's actually put together reasonably well. And not perfectly realistic, but good enough for a relaxing afternoon game. But this is just sad. Ah, shit. Left on the ground. Yes, the magic rust removal tool. Ah, and I've dropped it twice. Now, I've actually had to do this job for real, working on a couple of cars before, and, yeah. I only wish it was this easy. Yeah, I'm really disappointed with this here, guys. Look, it's all shiny now. We got paint guns, hammer. Nah, that'll do. Man, if it causes you to waste a ton of your time and get annoyed, that's accurate. You know what? That's a fair comment. That is a fair comment. We got basically everything in here is knackered, so outsource repairs on everything. I don't even know if I'll have enough to repair all these. I'll do my best to actually try and finish this thing off, but yeah, I was 50-50 on this, having played around with the tanks I've played through so far, which is the T-34 and the KV-1 full restores from scratch, and I've played around with... The only one I think I haven't seen is the Panther at this point. I've done minor repairs to Tigers, KV-1s, some of the T-34s, and Panzer IVs. I had never encountered the half-track here, and I was 50-50 on how it all was, but seeing the half-track... Yeah, this is... I doubt I'm going to have enough money to actually do all this, to be perfectly honest. But this early in the game, because I've sort of only just started off, I don't have the ability to repair my own stuff, so I've got to outsource all the repairs. And then buy anything that's left over. Actually, select all. What have I got? What am I doing? No, not sell, outsource repairs. Cost of operation, 20,000. We've only got 10,000. I can't actually... Yep, I can't actually repair this thing. I just straight up don't have the money. I don't know what else to say here. I'm actually kind of a little stunned that it's this backwards in this section. I mean, of all the vehicles, the half-track should be the one that is the most complex for them to do, because it's essentially a car. It's essentially just a car for Car Mechanic Simulator. It's got the track back end, but otherwise it's got a gearbox, it's got a front mount engine. Everything else in this thing works basically the same way as a car does, and they've got a whole game that's devoted to that, where you can pull apart everything from Mercedes to Porsches to everything else, and it's good. There's one bolt and 2 track screws, or 2 track pins in the entire thing. Yeah. I don't even know if I want to keep streaming this, to be entirely honest. I am that disappointed with this. Well, this will be an interesting video to put up on the channel. Tank Mechanic Simulator. I can't recommend it because they've half-assed the actual mechanics side of the game. Not to mention the fact that it has my ultimate pet hate at the moment. I've had to disconnect my entire flight sim setup from the computer because the game will detect any input from any controller at all as a full 100% movement the second you accidentally hit anything, and then lock all your controls with no way of disabling them. So if I accidentally kick my rudder pedals underneath my desk, my character will sit here spinning around in circles like this, and I'll have to reset the entire game for it. So it contains that, which, as far as I'm concerned, is lazy coding, but I criticize every game that does that, and there's a lot of them. But the core concept of this game is to be a mechanic game. The block has no pistons. The block has nothing but bolt-on components, and there's no screws holding together a half-track at all. This is not even close to being as complex as Car Mechanic Simulator, a game that was released by the same developers 2 years ago. This is shit. The block doesn't even look like you can add pistons. There's no place to attach them so far as I can tell. No, it's straight up not modeled as. Like, it's not that they're missing. There is none. There is no pistons. There is no crankshaft. There is no conrods. There is no engine internals of any kind to work on this engine. It is a small collection of bolt-on components that make it look like an engine, followed by a big metal cube, or metal textured cube. Yeah. I'm really disappointed. This is half-assed. This is... Yeah, as I said, I was borderline on it before I started this stream, on it being not as good as Car Mechanic Simulator, but reasonably okay. But this is just crap. Yeah, you know what? This is going to be a relatively short stream, guys, because I actually don't want to stream this anymore. I have recorded all of this. I might clean it up and do a bit of an upload, and I'm going to keep it as raw as I possibly can, to be perfectly honest, because there's no way I could give this, in comparison to the previous games that have been put in, a good review. This is just half-assed car simulator with less effort put in, playing on those that are interested in military hardware, World War II and tanks, and expecting people to buy it without putting the effort in.